G'day guys, and welcome to the top 15 things I would like to see in Persona 3 Reload. Now this video is a passion project because Persona 3 is it is my favorite JRPG of all time. And these 15 things I feel would really add to the experience without taking anything away, and I just want it to be the best game it can be. Also, this is my first video of this style / top anything list, so please don't roast me too bad, boys. Now, let's get straight into the list and start discussing the top 15 things I would like to see in Persona 3 Reload, starting with number 15. So starting off the list in 15th place, we have add a Thieves Den or a place to view the art and the music. Now this is something I've personally really enjoyed from Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal, is a place where you can just go and experience all the concept art or the music at your own leisure and kind of just screw around and do what you want. It's a nice feature, I enjoy it. I don't know how P3 could do it, because P4 was in the style of a TV show and P5 was the protagonist's palace, but I would like to see something like this. It'd be cool to see models for the bosses up close, models for the characters up close, their personas. It'd be cool to have like a character changing thing like in Royal. Place to listen to the best soundtrack in the series would be nice too. And to have artwork from all the years of Persona 3, from the OG P3 artwork to the FES artwork to Portable to this game's artwork. I think a Thieves Den type place would be really nice. And it wouldn't change anything about the main game by adding it too, so it's kind of like just a safe addition to have, really. So yeah, that's the Thieves Den at 15, or something similar. Let's move on to number 14. Coming in at number 14, we have no recording block for native console recording. Now this is something that seems small, but it actually affects pretty much everyone who plays this game. So if you don't know what this is, when Persona 5, the OG Persona 5 originally launched, you couldn't use your PlayStation capture button to screenshot or record any of the game except for the menu, which means no one could share screenshots with each other or share video of each other, which was very annoying and no one liked it. And in Royal they did it with the third semester. Now I think it's pretty useless considering there's spoiler tags on things now, and the fact that the game's story has been out since 2006. So yeah, just get rid of this, no one wants it, people just want to be able to share their clips. Portable doesn't have it, and because of that you get to see this Ultra Instinct FeMC clip. So cool little moments like this will be lost in time forever if they put a recording block on it. So hopefully they do not, and everyone can freely share the game. Now that's number 14, let's go to the 13th spot. In 13th we have add level 3 personas for the members of SEES. Now this one I feel comes out of the necessity of the Persona 4 and 5 characters both have their level 3 personas. And since Persona 4 Golden, the first game to do this, came out after the final version of P3, the P3 characters never got this chance. Now, what level 3 personas encompass is basically just a brand new unique skill for that persona and that character. And they also have a new design and a new name when they get summoned and all of that. And since the cast is being redubbed, they can call out the new name, so that's not a problem. Now the real problem lies with how would it fit into the story, because Persona 3 does its evolutions different from the other games. They evolve as due to the story instead of the social links. And I don't feel like they should change that. I like how it does that. The only way I can see them doing it is either they make new scenes for level 3 for everyone, maybe during, like when they realize at a certain point in the game that they gotta do something to do something. I don't want to spoil. If they do go this route, make a new scene where they do it in, say, December or January. I think that'd be pretty good. Now that was number 13. Let's move on to number 12. In 12th position is change level 99 and change the new game plus. Now what I mean by this is, unique to Persona 3, is when you hit level 99, no matter what character does it, their HP and their SP will go up to 999 each. I personally don't really like this, since it takes away some of the uniqueness of the character, and I think there should be an option in the settings whether it does this or not. And as you can see, characters still keep their identities when they hit level 99 in P4. Kanji's still the HP tank but falls out on SP, Yuko's still the massive SP dump but falls out on HP, etc, etc. And what I mean by change new game plus is, give us an option to pick what carries over, because the way it is now, if you start new game plus, as you can see by the footage, your character will remain at the level they were at when you beat the game, in my case 99, but none of the other characters will. What this does is it makes you want to speedrun Tartarus, it makes you not want to play the game, it makes you not want to invest leveling up your team because you're already max level. It's no good thing. I do not like it personally, so if they're going to change it, give us the option whether we carry over our level or not, and if we select yes, it should carry over everyone's level and not just ours, and if we select no, it should work like it does in P4 and 5. So that's it for 12, let's move on to number 11. In 11th is change cosmetic outfits into their own slot and make them separate from armors. Now as you can see here, I have the Armor of Light, which is the best armor in the game, at 170, but it keeps my default appearance. But maybe I just want to wear the dark jacket because it's a great looking outfit, right? Well, because of that, I get punished with a 110 defense decrease and losing that magic ability. Compare this to say P5, where I can still have the best armors equipped while also looking fly as fuck. As you can see here, we can be as drippy as possible and not fuck up our stats. And here we are taking a very tough hit on Merciless, showing that we could look absolutely fucking amazing and still be combat effective. Something I wish we could do in P3, because holy shit, P3 has some sweet outfits. Now that's number 11, we're on to the 10th spot. At number 10 is challenge battles. So these weren't on the list when I first started scripting, due to the fact that I didn't really know much about the remake, just that it could have everything or it could just be the base game. Now learning what I've learnt, I now know challenge battles aren't guaranteed, which means I would like to see them. Now Persona 3 Portable had separate little rooms you could do, as well as rematches against the bosses who use new tactics, which I think was really cool. And that should definitely come back, because it's fun rematching the bosses with your OP personas, but they're also OP. I think the bosses should come back as challenge battles, as well as the Margaret battle. I think the Margaret battle is really cool. And it would also be, I think, the first time, maybe the second, because the dancing games, but possibly the first time we're going to see Margaret in this style, which would be really nice. Now the second kind of challenge battles we have are the ones from Persona 5 Royal. Now these ones are based on doing a set amount of challenges in certain orders, like do technical damage or get blessed damage or make the pro tag get the last hit. And there's one even against the pro tags of the other games. So if they had something like this, you could maybe challenge Narukami or Joker, which wouldn't really be lore friendly, but let's be honest, this battle isn't lore friendly either, so who cares? And challenge battles add a lot to building personas and building teams, because I know some people who just build for challenge battle rewards. So if they were gonna do both styles, I think they should bring the boss one back, but make it so there's challenges like the Persona 5. And then I'd also bring back the ones in Persona 5 that are certain enemies with certain conditions and certain movesets, because I think those are pretty cool. So that's enough about challenge battles. Let's move on to number 9. In 9th is more things to do at night, or expand the activities at night. Now let's put up a hypothetical. Hypothetically, let's say you're stuck in the Iwatadai dorm, or in Persona 4 you're stuck in Dojima's house. Now let's see the activities we can do in both of these with this handy little chart here. Now as you can see, you can do a whopping 3 activities in the allotted I dorm. You can sleep, you can study, and you can walk Koromaru. Now, study is pointless if you've maxed your intelligence, sleep only gives you a raise to your condition, and walk Koromaru is rarer and happens mid-game. Now let's compare to Dojima's house, and as you can see, it's a very uncanny difference. Now okay, maybe that's an unfair comparison, maybe P3 has way more stuff to do at night. Okay, so let's open up the whole map and see just how many things we can do at night. Here we have everything you can do in P3 at night. So you got the original 3, you got karaoke, the arcade, crane game, which is a bit lenient to add. You can be a customer, or you can work at the part-time job on 3 nights, and then you have 2 S-Links. Now hell, just to be completely fair, let's say you're playing FeMC in like a later version of Reload, right? These are the only 3 things FeMC adds to the night. Granted, they're pretty good things. 3 new social links. This ends up making them more even with the Persona 4 numbers, but still, that's only S-Link wise and not everything else wise. And still, that's only if you're playing FeMC. But it wouldn't be fair to only do this with P3. Let's also do it with P4 and have a look at how this looks. Moving on to the P4 chart, and oh dear. As you can see, there is more than double, maybe even more than triple if you count the S-Link hangouts, than there is in P3. Now, this is obviously because P3 is an older game, etc, but that's why a remake can expand upon these things. The major difference to me is the amount of S-Links. So in normal P3 without the FeMC you only have 2, but in Persona 4 Golden you actually have 5. And just to make things feel more complete, let's now cut over to one I made of Persona 5. And here we have Persona 5 Royal with a whopping 37 things to do. And looking at this, I realize I actually missed things, like fortune telling and the arcade machine there. But those don't advance time. I mainly looked at things that advance time and give you a buff in some way, or are just fun things to do. You got 8 links at night, plus an outing with the twins. So technically 9 links at night, along with all this other stuff. Now here's a few ways I think Persona 3 could add more things to do at night. My first idea is add reading to the game. You could easily buy the books from the book-on store that's in the game, and you could add or repurpose some Elizabeth quests to give you some books. Either way, you always see people in the dorm reading, so reading could be something in the game. Number 2 is this little kitchen area over here. You could maybe have a lunch thing like in P4, where you can make your lunch and then maybe eat it with someone at the school the next day. Or you can make dinner for the dorm mates. Yukari mentions in FeMC Route they used to have a dorm mother who cooked, and you'd be pretty popular if you were good in the kitchen. So I could definitely see them adding something like this. Another thing they could do is make certain social links active at night as well as during the day. Maya makes the most sense to me out of everyone because out of all the characters she has the best excuse to be active during the night as well as during the day. So I think they could add her to a night link as well as add a few other links with a bit of strings pulled. What never made sense to me is how you can go to Polonia Mall from the dorm but you can't go anywhere else. Now for people who only played Portable, they might think, oh, your character gets Polonia Mall by walking over this big bridge over here. Well actually that's incorrect. Now in the other versions it actually shows a little cutscene-esque thing of your character travelling across the map. Now what route do they take to get to Polonia Mall? Well here it is. First they cut through the strip mall, get on the train, and then go over this little footbridge in the Polonia Mall. Do you see how long this travel is? Compare that to say going through the actual strip mall or the shrine that's right over there from the dorm. So I think opening up the strip mall at night and the shrine at night wouldn't be bad things at all and would make sense. And those would add at least 10 more options onto your palette that you have, including drawing fortune links, which many people like to do in P4. Now there's more I could talk about this point, but I don't want this point to be the whole video, so I'm just going to leave number 9 at that. But yeah, there's plenty of things you could just add tonight to make it more expansive. So that's it with number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Coming in at number 8 is add persona abilities and add updated moves. Added in Persona 5 Royal were the abilities for personas to, well, have abilities. These range from things such as a free attack during a 1 more, 20% boost to multi-hitting magic attacks, a stat bonus when you're surrounded, or in P3's case it'd be if the enemy got an ambush on you, and plenty more. And what this did also gave abilities to your party members. As you can see here, here's a list of the party member abilities, all unique abilities to them, and more reasons to change your party up and pick them for different situations. And I'll just show a bunch of clips here of the abilities actually getting used by the party members, which has been saving my life on this Merciless run. Now as for update moves, this one should be fairly obvious. In Persona 3 there's a very limited selection of moves, considering it's the first modern Persona. In Persona 4 they added moves such as Debilitate and Heat Riser, which became staples. And in 5 they added some more moves like Lucky and Miracle Punch, as well as Nuke and Psy. Now I actually don't want Nuke and Psy in 3. I think they should stick with the types they have. As far as Light and Darkness go, I kinda want them to keep them as insta-kills, but then they are kinda limited in a way. So if they add the Bless and Curse attacks, then party members like Ken and Koromaru would get a whole new leash on life. Had a little pun there. They could be a whole lot more useful, because then they could be running a whole archetype instead of just being insta-kill enemy bots, basically. So I'm 50-50 on them changing the Light and Dark to be Persona 5-alized. However, there's plenty of other moves throughout Persona 4 and 5 they could easily add. In this clip here, you can see Makoto using Heat Riser in the challenge battle, as well as using a severe nuke skill, which isn't exclusive to any Persona, it's just something you can get through cards or through fusing or etc, etc. So if he has Heat Riser and all these moves in this challenge battle, it seems only fitting that he can use them normally in the actual game. Another thing I think they could do is they could take moves like Riot Gun, Triple Down, and One Shot Kill, and turn them into Pierce moves. I think that would be very fitting. So yeah, that's it for number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Coming in at number 7 and midway down the list is weather. Persona 3's biggest draw is the atmosphere. So picture how good the atmosphere is, then add rain and snow on top of that, and it would just be flawless. It would be perfect, man. Like those days in Persona 5 when school goes out and you can just see the rain slowly falling outside, the music's a bit calmer. It's just, those are my favorite days in that game because they're just so relaxing, they're so chill. They add to the atmosphere of Persona 5 really well. And in Persona 4, when the music just cuts out completely and you're just left with the noise of the rain, there's just something really good about that too. So I don't know how they could do it in 3. They could maybe make a new track, maybe a more lo-fi beat. They could just take the music out like they did in P4. Or they could just keep the same song. Either way, just the presence of rain and it changing everyone's mood and how everything looks and works, it would just be really fucking nice. It would really suit the game in a lot of places, in a lot of areas, and it would make the world feel more lived in. Weather is a building block for making a world more believable. And snow. Some of you might be thinking, oh, but snow would, like, cover up a big story beat that happens around December, January. Yeah, it would, but not if you do it the way I think it should be done. So you see here in Persona 4 how snow's all over the ground, right? I think it should be like that on the roofs of buildings, like on the roof of the shrine and stuff like that. But on the actual ground, I think it should be like piles of melted snow in general, just like you see here in Okina City. I mean, Okina City is very similar to Persona 3's Iwatadai. It is very, very similar. So they could obviously do that. The reason I have weather on here as well, you might think it's a shoe-in, but original Persona 3 didn't have it. And this is faithful to the original in a lot of places. Also, I don't see in the reload trailer an icon for the weather. The closest thing I see is in the weekday text, this little flow. That could be some form of showing us what the weather is, but then again it could just be a stylistic choice showing the ocean. But maybe that means it's cloudy for all we know, it means it's sunny or this and that. Maybe when it's raining you see little raindrops in the weekday, weekend text. But I haven't seen a clear indicator for weather in all the footage I've seen. It's always been that sort of wave effect. So I'm not sure if weather's even in the game, and I would really like it to make it in. Considering Reload is going for this sort of floating in limbo ocean aesthetic, I think that rain in particular would really fit. Now that's it for weather at number 7. We're on to number 6. Coming in at number 6, we have Add Variety to Tartarus. Now I'm sure this one would have been a shoo-in for many people that they would have expected on this list, and it's for good reason. Tartarus, the main dungeon of the game, is 263 floors, and what's different about these floors, you ask? Well, you can get some that give more XP, you can get some that only have golden shadows on them, you can get some that have no enemies and spawn the Reaper, or you can get the dark floors as you see in this clip. But that's all the floors there are. There's no layout changes, there's no falling from one floor and going to another like in P5, and overall, besides a looks difference and a music change, all the blocks feel the exact same to traverse. Now what I heard they were going to make your party talk to you as you're running around, similar to Persona 5's Mementos, where when you're just driving around in the motorcar, people just strike up little conversations with each other. And while that's a good idea, and I definitely would have suggested it if I didn't know that, it doesn't exactly change up the gameplay at all. And it would be cool to see what they could do with this new Tartarus. From what I noticed here in the trailer, it kinda looks like there's no loading, like he can just run up those stairs and then be straight at the next block. Now if that's true, I don't know how they're gonna do the randomness. They said in interviews they didn't want to ruin the lore of Tartarus, so I don't think it should be like a palace in P5 where certain areas are certainly sculpted. I think it should be all randomly generated. But do something with the random generation. Make it so floors can generate in really weird ways. Make it so you could have like those big square shaped floors like in Persona 5. And I don't know how they could do this, but make all the blocks play a little bit differently. Like maybe Thebel is just smaller types of floors, like more traditional Tartarus style. While Ottomar, the biggest block in the game, is like more of a straightforward gauntlet type of thing. And I forget the name of the block, but there's a block that's all like, it's around when Shinjiro joins. There's a block where everything's more like pink and purple. Maybe make that have really weird spirally corridors and stuff that just confuses you, like those big square ones from P5, or maybe one that's just a cylinder and you work all the way around going from the outside in. It'd be really cool if there were blocks like that. But yeah, that's Tartarus Variety at number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Coming in at number 5, and in the top 5, is an expanded Velvet Room. Now here's where we get really in depth with the final 5, starting with an expanded Velvet Room, which I think is long overdue for Persona 3. A big complaint people had with the Persona 3 portable port is when you're fusing personas you can't select what skills you carry over, you have to basically shuffle the skills until you get the ones you want. Certain little things like that, and bigger things can be added to an expanded Velvet Room. Now I have plenty of ideas. Idea number 1 is obviously add a strengthened persona system like in Persona 5. I'd also like to see lockdown added to the Velvet Room. It acts as your persona getting locked up and it gains new skills that help it against defending, and it also buffs its stats randomly. Now it doesn't need to be a lockup thing in this, it could just be any kind of system, like maybe just Elizabeth keeps the persona for a few days or something. Also add network fusions. Network fusions are a really fun thing to do. You can make some really cool unique personas out of them. And it's cool just seeing what kind of personas other people made, and it's like a community, sense of community kind of thing. Now what I don't want is them turning into items, because we have a store in the game for that already, so it'd be kind of superfluous to have personas be able to turn into items. But I think Strengthen and Network Fusion could come back, and should be put in the game. And that's not it for the Velvet Room. I have 2 more things I want out of the Velvet Room. Number 1 is I want the fusion system to be updated to be like Persona 5. So I want abilities in the game, I want them to be able to be carried over. I want moves to be able to be carried over the same way as Persona 5. I want you to be able to strengthen personas with other personas, and I want you to be able to build any kind of build on any persona you want. Right here, you see a pixie I made. I tried to make Elizabeth's pixie with Mega Dolan, and I gave it amp up and all these skills and all these perks and all these buffs, so I can basically run this as that kind of persona. And you can make really fun, cool combinations with this. The persona building in Persona 5 actually has a pretty active community because they build personas for challenge battles, which I think is a very good active way and healthy way to engage with the game. And here's the final idea I have for the Velvet Room. Now this is one I personally thought up. I don't think any or many other people have even thought of this, but I'm actually pretty proud of this idea. Make it so the stages of the moon trigger a fusion alarm. Now what I mean by this is a new moon should trigger a fusion alarm in the Velvet Room. It should only be for new moons and full moons. I think that'd be really cool. It would balance fusion alarms. It'd make it so you're pumped for the next new moon because you're waiting for your next fusion alarm. And there's only one full moon where you can actually use the Velvet Room, and that's at the end of the game. So make it so if you do it during a full moon, it's basically either an endless fusion alarm or you get something really good. Like maybe you get Mega Dolan just put on your persona, or even like Morning Star or something like that. Something really good. And it's in that way it'll work like Persona 4 system with the rain, where you have fusion forecasts. Now I'll dub this idea as lunar fusions. So lunar fusions will be different from the fusion alarms. Lunar fusions will basically be during a quarter moon or a half moon. You basically go in and whatever persona you fuse, it will have a different effect on it, exact same as fusion forecast. Like maybe if you fuse a certain persona, it gets a certain ability with the fusion, or if you fuse a certain persona on this day, it gets a strength buff, etc, etc. Now that's all my ideas for an expanded Velvet Room at number 5. Let's move on to number 4. Coming in at number 4, just shy of the top 3, is add abilities to social links. Now some people might put the Velvet Room expansion higher than this, but I think personally that the battles and the fusing have always been pretty solid, even if they're missing lots of more key components from the other games. But what I think really needs expanding on is the social sim aspect. Because here's the deal, right? A lot of the links as far as their storytelling goes, they're alright. I don't think they should be touched or changed. I just think that from a gameplay point of view, the only reason and reward you get out of the links besides the story is just buffs to the persona's XP. You don't get anything else. This can leave the social sim aspect as a bit more bland because you just think, oh, I want to get this link up because it's close to leveling up, or I want to get this link up because it's rarer to do this link. And there's lots of rooms to add different kinds of abilities. Like our P5, people will run Hifumi Link a lot because you can get those party member swap abilities and they change the entire aspect of the game. There's tons of links that do all these little kinds of different things. There's tons of different abilities you can put on all the different links. I personally think it would be really cool to see link abilities added to the game, and I actually have a few ideas I will go over now. So starting off with the first idea I had, we had Mamoru's link. So the ideas I had for him is a hybrid Ryuji Kasumi link, because he's an athlete, right? So I think rank 2 should be you can sprint in Tartarus. Now you might think, oh, why can't Makoto just sprint in Tartarus normally? It's mentioned several times that Tartarus actually takes a lot out of the people who go there. It's really tiring and draining, and that's why there's actually tired and sick conditions in the game. Compared to say the palaces that never really said they tire anyone out. And even in P5 when characters didn't even know they were in palaces, they didn't feel like they were tired at all. So rank 2, after training a bit with him, I think Makoto would have the stamina to actually start sprinting around in Tartarus. Now rank 5, Silent Sprint, this is basically the Ryuji one where you just run past shadows and they don't detect you. Rank 8, Dodge and Ambush. Now this is different from the Kasumi one where you can dodge and then ambush them. This is just if the shadow swings, you get a little moment where you dodge it. It's a get out of jail free card, but it's not a free ambush card. And rank 10, Front Ambush, you might think just like the Kasumi thing again, but it's actually different. Front Ambush would be If you run up to the shadow the moment before it swings, if you swing as it swings, you get a little animation where Makoto like dodges to the side and hits it from the back. It's more of a speedrun thing and less of a get out of jail free. That's what rank 8's for. Rank 8 is if you screw it up, he'll just dodge it, and then you get an option to do a neutral battle to leave. So yeah, that's Mamoru's ones. Let's go on to another one. Next up is Chihiro, very basic, literally just Mishima's Link. I think it would fix the whole backup party member issue that P3 has, where the backup party just gets left behind and you don't really get to use them much because of that. So you got rank 2 at 25%, rank 5 at 50, rank 8 at 75, and rank 10 at 100% shared XP. And that's pretty much it for Chihiro's one. And here's Tanaka's. So I thought Tanaka's should focus more on the monetary aspect of the game, which are the shuffle times. So rank 2 is just higher money reward. Rank 5 is you're guaranteed a 1 more if you fail. So basically if you hit one of those blank cards and it said nothing happened, you get a free reroll instead of it being a chance. Rank 8 is something unique I thought of. It adds a golden card chance. It basically means there's a 5% chance that any shuffle time will contain what I call a golden shuffle card. Now if you get this golden shuffle card, it gives you loot from a golden chest or golden shadow from that block. So if you got one on The Bell, you have a chance of getting the Shirt of Chivalry, or you have a chance of getting Homunculus, or you have a chance of getting Amulet Coin. You have a chance of getting all of that from The Bell, but if you're on another block you can get its golden chest or golden shadow loot. I think that's a really cool mechanic and it would just be fun to see and would excite you for shuffle times. And rank 10 is just make every win a shuffle time, because as it is now the only guaranteed shuffle times are if Pro Tag gets last hit or an All Out gets last hit. So this way it could make it so no matter who gets the last hit in what situation, you will always get a shuffle time. So that's Tanaka's one. Next up is Kaz's Link, which I based mainly around condition. So rank 2 is Makoto can stay in Tartarus longer before tiring, which basically means what it says, you can do more Tartarus before getting the tire condition. Rank 5 is the entire party can stay in Tartarus longer before tiring. Rank 8 is tired recovers quicker, so basically instead of waiting 2 days without resting for it to recover, or 3 days, it basically recovers in 1 day. And rank 10 is can't get sick, which basically just deletes the entire sick condition from Makoto and maybe from the entire party. So the most you can get is tired no matter what you do and how far you do it. So that's Kaz's. I thought it was fitting for his character, so let's move on to one of my last two. So here's Mitsuru. She basically has some of Hifumi's abilities, but a few unique ones. So rank 2 is just like Hifumi's, which is just swap out party member on your turn. Rank 5 is a higher follow-up attack chance. Rank 8, which is unique to her, swap a knocked out team member but it takes 2 turns. So you do it on Makoto's turn, which uses his turn. The party member's still knocked out, and then when Makoto uses his second turn, then they get swapped out with the new one. And rank 10 is just like Hifumi's, you can swap anyone out on anyone's turn, including using the rank 8. I think it's fitting for Mitsuru since she's all about tactical things and this is very tactical. So that's it for hers. Let's move on to my last one. So last but not least we have Fuka, who I made a mix of Futaba and Akechi. So rank 2 random analysis similar to Akechi's, except it's not all of it, it'll just be one attribute from it. Rank 5 chance of marking the stairs or perhaps the entire floor. I don't know which one would be more balanced, so I just put the stairs, that'd be like Futaba's. Rank 8 random full analysis. This will be like Akechi's buffed version, where there's a random chance she'll just fully analyze a shadow, just straight up. Some might say, oh, it should be an instant analyze, but then there'd be no point of hiding the attributes. You'd know all the shadow attributes, be OP. So I think this is a good mid-ground. And rank 10, this is another thing I thought up. Gives an option to locate golden shadows. So in that drop menu where you can ask her to teleport you to the entrance, there'll be a new thing that says locate golden shadows. And when you click it, say you're on like floor 60, Fuka will say to you, oh, I detect rare shadows on floor 65, so when you go there, it's a guaranteed golden shadow floor. I don't know if this should be a once per exploration thing, or if you can spam it, but this is how you could farm up golden shadows. You could just do this, and she would mark all the floors for you. I think it'd be really cool, and it's really fitting of a rank 10, because with this, you could actually get everyone's OP weapons and stuff a lot earlier. So that's it for Fuka, and that's the last of all the ones I actually bought up. So those were just ideas and not really things I think will make it into the game 100%. But those are just examples of things they could do with the characters and could still fit the character's lore. and some of those are really creative, so I think they could get really creative with this cast of characters they have here. And it would make me really excited to actually go through all the links and see all the abilities add to all the characters. So I really hope link abilities make it into the game, because it changes up how you do the social sim. Like, oh, maybe I want to prioritize Mitsuru's abilities as soon as possible, so I gotta make sure my academics is high for that, but then as I'm doing that, I gotta make sure my courage is high enough for the Fuku abilities I want too. Or while doing that, wanting to get the Tanaka abilities so I can actually get better shuffle times and get better equipment for my people. It adds a whole nother layer to the social sim part of the game, which I feel, other than the links themselves, there's not really much to do in the social sim as there is, which I also talked about in the more things to do at night. And that's why I personally put it above the Velvet Room, because the combat and all the Tartarus is more fleshed out than the social sim aspect ever was, in my opinion. So that's add social link abilities at number 4. We're in to the final 3. Coming in number 3, and in the top 3 things I want the most in Persona 3 Reload is the Answer DLC. Now this one would have very mixed opinions, because that's what I've seen online about the Answer. There's a lot of people who do not like it at all, and a lot of people who think it's part of Persona 3's full story. Now I personally think the Answer is canon, because in Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, Igus and Elizabeth are both listed as the full Arcana, which are things that happened in the Answer. And this game takes place a year after Persona 4, which is well past a few years after P3's normal ending. And I personally think it needs to be in the game for prosperity's sake, for the sake of saying, yes, this is the complete full Persona 3 experience, you can get all in one package. Because, hand over heart, I actually have never played the Answer. I've seen footage of it, I know the story, I know all the things that happen in it, but I've never been able to play it because of how hard it is to get your hands on. With this remake coming out, and with Portable being on the modern consoles, that will make the Answer the hardest piece of Persona 3 content to even access. And a lot of problems people have with the Answer is mainly due to the story or the gameplay. I've seen things for both, and here's my retort to that. The thing is, they can just rewrite the story, they can rewrite certain parts, because they're doing that with the main game. They can also change up the gameplay, because it's a remake, not a remaster, so they have an excuse to change the stuff people didn't like. Now, I really don't have much to say about this point, which is kind of funny since it's in the top 3, but that's a part of the reason why it's in the top 3. I've never experienced the Answer. I want to play it, I want to see it, I want to see it in this new graphical style. I want to be able to experience all of Persona 3 in its entirety, and that is why it is this high on the list. I originally had this as not being a DLC, just being in the game, but the day after I scripted that, they announced that it's just the base game being remade, so I changed it to be a DLC. So that's all there is for the Answer at number 3. It's something I really want to see in the game. But now, let's move on to the second thing I want to see most in Persona 3 Reload. Coming in at number 2, and in the top 3 things I want to see most in Persona 3 Reload is a FeMC DLC. Do I really even need to say any more than that? Well, I'm going to anyway. FeMC adds a whole nother layer to the entire game. It adds a whole nother character to go through. It adds new character development for the characters you already know and love. It adds new social links that, in my opinion, vastly destroyed the Makoto links. And this will be the first modern Persona game to have both a male and a female route and be fully 3D open world. It changes the atmosphere of the game too. Now, some people don't like the change. I personally do, because all the same stuff still happens. The only real difference is you look at it more from an optimistic point of view, and it's really refreshing to see that. This even goes beyond the changes to the social links and just the changes to the player character. FeMC herself has such a unique personality. There's lots of cutscenes in the game where Makoto just won't even chime in, you just kind of watch the cutscene go on. But FeMC actually chimes in. Like during the Yakushima trip, you can chime in just to show how excited you are for it. There's tons of little cutscenes that change, all these little subtle things, and it makes even the stuff you've seen before feel more refreshing as a result. It gives characters like Junpei so much more love because he actually has a full social link and he has good payoff at the end with FeMC. Everything about it is really good. It gives characters like Yukari more screen time. And Shinjiro, man, FeMC made Shinjiro my favourite character in the entire game because of how well done their link is and how well done that makes his entire character as a whole. It is perfect. It is amazing. Characters like Ryo and Sayori, who have never seen 3D models of, we've just seen the little art sprites, they're going to be lost in the ether forever. FeMC helping Ryo understand what it means to care about someone and make her fit in more. FeMC helping Sayori overcome her bullying and stand up for herself. And even characters like Theo and all his antics. Imagine the Theo antics, but actual character models. That would be so good. And I haven't even mentioned the soundtrack yet. Holy shit. The soundtrack is amazing. Way of Life got stuck in my head the first time I heard it, and it's still stuck in my head, and it is my favorite Persona song of all time because it is just that good, right? And Danger Zone for the bosses. Danger Zone is such a banger. FeMC gives links to all your party as well, so all of your party actually gets character development beyond just the regular story. And in FeMC route, you actually have a link with Ryoji. So all the stuff that happens with Ryoji feels way more personal and way more impactful because of that. Same with Shinjiro. All the stuff that happens with him feels way more personal and way more impactful because of that. Even with Junpei, with all these characters that you have the links with, you feel more attached to them when all this stuff goes down. It's really well done, it's really good. It should have been in the base game, to be honest. And just like with the answer, I had this as just it being in the game, but now knowing what I've learned again, I just want it to be in DLC form. Now people might say, oh, you shouldn't have to pay for it as DLC, and yeah, I agree, but the problem is, at least it gets in the game, right? At least the option is there to get it and play it and do it. Now I'm concerned they omitted Answer and FeMC, not even to make them DLCs, but to put them in a Persona 5 Royal type of game called like Persona 3 Reloaded, or just Persona 3 Reloaded, or Persona 3 Mag Swap or something like that, right? Which I hope is not the case, which is why I'm praying that they get in as DLC and not in as some other version of the game, which I hope never happens anyway because it's dumb for a remaster to do that. So I have plenty more to say about the FeMC point, and if it sounded like I was ranting during this one, it's because there's just so much to get out that I really want to say about it. And if you're curious about more points I have for FeMC, or just want to watch a chill Persona playthrough, I'm currently doing a FeMC run of Portable to hype up Reload, and it's also on Maniac difficulty, which has been pretty fun so far. So if you're curious on my thoughts on Persona 3, on FeMC, on everything about the game and Reload, then it will be linked below, and it will also be at the end of the video. Well, that's it for FeMC at number 2. Let's move on to the number 1 thing I want to see most in Persona 3 Reload. And now, the number 1 thing I want to see the most in Persona 3 Reload. The only thing that could beat out a FeMC DLC. And without this thing, all other 14 things on the list would be made worse as a result. This is the backbone of the game, and that is for them to keep the atmosphere. Now, I need to tell you this story so you'll understand where I'm coming from here. I first got into Persona last year. When I got Persona 5 Royal for my birthday, I bought it on a whim because it looked cool. Played through the entire game in a week, beat it and loved it, fell in love with the game, the characters, all the mechanics, everything about the game. I wanted to play the others. Over the course of 2 following weeks, I played Strikers and I played all the dancing games. And in a few weeks after that, I found my PS Vita and I got Golden and P3P on it. I played all the way through Golden, loved everything about it, and this was basically a month of Persona. And the last game I had left to play was Persona 3 Portable. I am telling you all this because I played it last. I played it way later than the others. And the game still made me tear up at the end. I knew what was coming in the ending. I've been on forums. I knew all of the major plot beats of the game, and it still hit me emotionally. It still did all the things it needed to do. It was one of the only games in my 17 years of playing games that made me actually cry at the ending. Persona 3 is a beautiful masterpiece. It needs to keep the atmosphere to stay as that. Even if none of these other features even got added, if the atmosphere is perfect, the game will still have that flow. It will still have that vibe. There's something special about Persona 3. It is an experience. It is a wonderful game. And this is something really special to me. I found out about Reload because I don't watch Gamescom or anything. I just was on YouTube homepage and I saw someone uploaded the trailer song for Reload. And I read the title. I thought it was a fan game because there's always fan games being made with unique songs. And then as I listened to the song, I just went to the comments and I was like, wait a minute, is this legit? And then I looked up the real trailer, and I'm not even kidding. I got tears in my eyes watching the trailer. No game trailer has ever been able to do that to me before. None. In the history of my entire life, I have never teared up at a trailer. That is the power of Persona 3, and that is the power of its atmosphere and storytelling. And it needs to stay pure like that. From the color palette to the voice acting to all the character motivation, all this needs to stay intact for Persona 3 Reload to feel like Persona 3. And as far as the new voice actors go, I've heard snippets of them, and yes, the snippets I heard do sound like the old cast, but the line delivery, can they sell the same emotion in these certain scenes? The biggest one I think needs to pull it off perfectly is Aigis. If Aigis' new voice can't pull off the same emotional response in certain scenes, then there's just gonna lose a lot of the magic of the original game, I think. I make a point saying that I play it last because none of this is based on nostalgia being the first thing I played. It was literally the last Persona I played, and it is my all-time favorite Persona by a mile. It is an amazing game. It needs its atmosphere and feeling to be preserved. Every single story beat needs to have the same impact as it originally did, even with the rewritten script, even with the new voice cast. If they can manage that, then this game will be phenomenal. It will be amazing. And that is the backbone of the entire game, and that is why it is number one.
Thank you.
And there you have it. That is the list. Now, if certain things sounded different than others, this has been recorded over the course of the past 2 weeks. And if anything has changed during this list being made, then please let me know. I've tried to keep up with what I can, but I've been pretty busy trying to make this list and all of that. And once again, if you're interested in my FeMC Maniac playthrough, the playlist will be on the screen now. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, honestly. Leave anything you'd like to see added to Reload below, and I would like to have a discussion about it. See ya, and thanks for watching.